Hello, and welcome to Fair Start's Guest Chef Night at Home. I'm Emily Diddy, the Chief Development Officer at Fair Start. Tonight, I'm joining you from the Fair Start restaurant kitchen. Before we get started, and to help center equity in our work and conversation, I want to begin by acknowledging that we are on a journey, and while there's so much more to be done, we want to start by acknowledging we are on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people, and specifically stand on the lands of the first peoples of Seattle, the Duwamish. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish peoples who have stewarded it, past and present. For almost 30 years, Fair Start has been transforming lives, disrupting poverty, and nourishing communities through food, life skills, and job training. Last year, when COVID hit, we transformed our kitchens and redeployed staff to help make sure our neighbors across the Seattle area didn't go hungry. To date, we've produced over 3.5 million meals. We're also supporting students through virtual job training, case management, and wraparound support to help provide pathways for economic stability. The way we do our work might look a little different right now, but we know how important these programs are for sustaining and transforming lives. We are so excited to be with you for a virtual version of our Guest Chef Night to support our local chefs and restaurants, build community, and have a great time. If you have questions throughout the event, please put them on the chat. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can within the chat. This event is completely free, but if you want to support the work of Fair Start, we would welcome your donations at fairstart.org. Now, let's get the evening started with the very excellent Chef Wayne Johnson.
Good evening and welcome to another Guest Chef Night at Home. I'm Chef Wayne Johnson, and tonight we're going to learn from the master about Cajun and Creole cooking and chat about the significance of Mardi Gras. I'm excited to be here with my friend, my amazing friend, the amazing Chef Matt Lewis. Where are you at, Matt? Let's get this started. Man, it is so good to see you.
Good seeing you, Chef. I'm here.
You know,
that's the joke I've never heard in the 12 years we've been in business. Where you at, man?
Right?
But I love it. I love it every time I hear it. It never gets old.
We were like on the road, and my wife was in the car. And we just kept going, "Where you at, Matt?" Couldn't find the truck.
I still remember the first time that you and your wife showed up to the truck.
You remember that?
We're just right over here in South Lake Union.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
We thought you were on Capitol Hill.
Center.
We came all the way down.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
So it's funny to think of those memories, and
we have some great memories.
Realize it wasn't last year. It feels like last year, but
I know
COVID's got us all in a little bubble.
I feel like I lost 2 years, man. And it's all good though. We here together. We're cooking tonight.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit of something though. I was looking up, because we've been around each other a lot. We've heard a lot of stories.
Yep.
But I thought I'd go, let me just take a look at what he's got on his bio. What's his background? And no, I'm serious, man.
Right.
You and I both have stools at our grandmother's house that we used to stand. That's how you got this thing going, huh?
It is, man. Well, growing up in New Orleans, that's one of the sayings. It's actually on the side of our truck. It says most people eat to live, but in New Orleans, we live to eat. Right. So it's like we don't do it just for nourishment and to live another day. It's like, is it what we do?
Right.
And growing up, you end up in people's kitchens and you learn things. And it's one of those things that you start to realize that grandma's jambalaya is different than mom's jambalaya. That's different than auntie's jambalaya and so forth. Right. But it's all jambalaya and it's all delicious. They all claim that they have the best one. But, it's funny when you come up to Seattle and you start to do that. People are like, that's not like the jambalaya I've had in New Orleans. It's like, yeah, obviously, because this is my grandma's recipe and my mom's recipe.
And theirs came from their kitchen,
yeah.
Right?
I said, and it's funny because you're like, well, did you like it? Yeah, it was great. Well, what are you worried about then, right?
So, that's great. But what are you doing now? What's happening with you?
Yeah, so in general, we kind of did, as everybody else did, a COVID pivot. We used to do lunches like high density office areas, but now we switched. Like we had people hitting us up. You need to come to my subdivision, right? Like large HOAs. You need to come out to here. And so we ended up going out to the residences. And luckily, this one lady was super, we call her consistent.
Okay.
Some people say persistent, like pestering. I don't think that's a word, but we like to make things up.
That's right.
And she was like, you gotta come. And so we finally did. And that first evening at this lady's house in her subdivision, we broke our retail record.
Really?
And so we're like, all right, we're coming out of hiatus for this COVID thing, and we're going to start hitting different neighborhoods. So now, for the first 9.5 years of being in business, I was able to tell you our schedule Monday through Sunday, right? Like,
wow.
I could take you through it any day of the week. Now, every day is different. That I don't have it memorized anymore. I'm like, hey, let me look it up for you. I'll tell you. But it's working.
Right.
It's working. We don't have our catering back. So that's kind of something we look forward to, because that's where we make our money. But our crew is fully employed.
Nice.
We didn't have to lay anybody off, and we're coming out to neighborhoods near you guys. So
that's so important. That's awesome. And people need to eat.
They need, yeah.
But you said, hey, in New Orleans, everybody's jambalaya. But what about Mardi Gras?
Oh, man, what about Mardi Gras? There's so many things about Mardi Gras that's kind of like secret squirrel that people don't realize. One, it'll blow your mind to know it's a religious holiday.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't look at all the videos you see on TV and think, you know what Mardi Gras is, because it's actually a family-oriented holiday as well. It's something that the schools down there will close for the whole week of Mardi Gras, which is that last week right before Easter holiday. That was always our kind of spring break.
So
we always call
Lent.
it Mardi Gras, right into Lent, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so Mardi Gras was the big celebration that you get everything out of your system before you have to fast for 40 days of Lent, right, leading up to Easter. So that's kind of the whole significance of that holiday. But leading up to it, there's so many traditions, like the king cake. That's one of the things that we've grown to be known for here in Seattle as well. It looks like a large braided cinnamon roll, purple, green, and gold sugar on top. You can buy them at whereyouatmatt.com. Shameless plug.
Well, fine, because I was about to say, when I go Google king cake, Seattle, your face comes up.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, man?
King cake, that's all I know.
So and we take pride in it. It's something that we started doing. It's like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? Like the first year we probably sold a dozen king cakes. Now we sell hundreds of king cakes in the month of Mardi Gras, that we consider it from January 6th to whenever Mardi Gras Day is. So it's something fun that we do. It's one of those traditions. It's one of those things that we just brought a little piece of New Orleans up here to the Northwest, and we love to share that. And it's all about the food and tradition. And that's kind of what leads us into like what Mardi Gras is. And we talked about family oriented. So down in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, what you would end up doing is whoever's house family member was closest to the parade route, you would go there. And whenever you showed up, there would be a big pot, 2 or 5 of something. It's simmering, right? And it was because you know how it is in New Orleans. It's like people RSVPing in Seattle. Like people just show up, you didn't, and it was just expected.
And usually when you went to a spot, when I was there, that's where you were for the day.
You're
not getting around town
because you go early enough to beat traffic, right? And there's always that big pot of food on there. You scoop out whatever you want, whether it's gumbo, jambalaya. What we're going to do today is shrimp Creole, right? Etouffee, you name it, it's there. And you eat, you go to the parade, you come back and you eat some more and let traffic die down. And then you finally go home later in the day. It's a whole day thing, and it's just those pots, those big pot meals that you can simmer a long time and they just get better.
So I want to get back to the king cake in a minute.
Yeah.
But you talked about your mom, your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But mentors, did you have any? I mean, I heard something about Frank. Who's Frank?
Yeah, Frank Stitt, man. He is like the Southern legend kind of guy. He's been in the scene for so long. He's brought up so many people under his ranks. But Frank Stitt, he started out with Highland Bar and Grill. He has Bottega. He has Chez Fon Fon.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
And this is all in Birmingham, Alabama. And people think of Alabama and they're like, they don't think food, right? You think of kind of gas station fried chicken or something like that, which they do have delicious fried chicken. But consistently, Birmingham, Alabama is up there with some of the best food cities that I've ever been to. There's so many great places there, and Frank was one of them. I also worked for a chef named Chris Hastings that worked for Frank back in the day of Hot Knot Fish Club down there.
Right.
But yeah, he's kind of the godfather of Southern cooking. I can't, with COVID, I can't tell you how many years ago it was, but I think it was 3 years ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago. Could have been last year. But Doll Esther won Best Pastry Chef South. Wow. And she's his pastry chef.
Came up from under. Okay.
Yes. And we talk about Black Lives Matter and all of that.
Yeah.
She should have won that 20 years ago when she was working for him, but that wasn't a thing back then, right? Because here's this black pastry chef doing some down-home Southern desserts.
Just doing it.
She was at Bottega when I was at Bottega.
Okay.
And that was back in the day, man. That was 25 years ago.
I hear you.
And she's been doing the same thing. She finally got her recognition 3 years ago,
So if you don't have a Frank, you can't get a Frank. What do you think? If somebody wants to come up in the culinary right now, what little advice would you give them?
Man, the biggest thing is the age of the internet has changed a lot, right? It used to be when you and I were coming up through kitchens, you had to go work for somebody in order to glean this knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And the difference being is now you can go on the internet and you can see it. The difference, though, I keep saying the difference because there's a lot of layers to this. And what I'm trying to say here is that people will go to the internet, do a dish watching I mastered that. It's bro, you didn't master that. You haven't ruined it enough times to master it, right?
Right.
I've messed dishes up more times than people have tried them. And that's when you master it, because then you can look at it and be like, yeah, you're about to go this way, but you got to turn left, right? It's a difference, and it's a different expectation of what people cook. And I think that's one of the things you see in kitchens is people don't want to do that grind, right? Nobody wants to peel that 50-pound sack of potatoes in order to move to the next station to make that pot de creme, right? They just want to they want to be the chef. And it's bro, that's not how it works, man. This is different. But I would say, find a chef that inspires you, and not necessarily inspires you this huge aha moment, but go eat there and figure out, wow, this dish is something I want to be able to recreate, right? And those are the chefs that I would want to work for. You don't need to necessarily work for a chef that has a huge name, although a lot of those chefs do great work. You can find just somebody that makes amazing food and go work for them. And my dad would always tell me, son, just go work for free if you want to learn it. That's not a thing these days. That might be an HR violation. I know we're in a corporation.
I know, right?
But, it's that's the thing is work for somebody for free in order to get that knowledge.
So Creole or Cajun, what are you doing tonight?
So we're going to make a pretty quick dish in the realm of the Creole world. We're going to pull this off pretty quickly. And it's called shrimp Creole.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And to its name, it's basically the Trinity, which in Creole cooking is the onion, the bell pepper, and the celery. You got to have your garlic, of course, Creole spice. We sell ours off the truck if you're ever looking for a good one. We're going to season salt and pepper because that's a thing. And jalapeno to add some natural heat. We will finish with some hot sauce, but it comes together pretty quick. And are we jumping right into this right now?
Let's talk about it. Let's get in there. Yeah.
All right. So a couple of tricks. I always, when I buy shrimp, and I have them right here behind me, I'm going to pull these into the shot. Buy your shrimp whenever you're making a dish with this shell on, right? Because we peeled these shrimp ahead of time, and now we have these shells. And the reason I like these shells is I'm going to use this. And if I can pull this off on these portable burners, you can do this easily at home. We have these beautiful shrimp here. And for presentation, if you want, you can leave the tail on them. So, shells here. What I want is to create a quick stock. And the beauty of shrimp is it doesn't take long to cook. The shrimp itself cooks even quicker. I've got my pan heated up here. I'm going to put just a touch of oil and get it nice and hot. Right into the bottom.
Now, that oil is just to help bring out the flavor in the shells, right?
Yeah. The best way to explain the oil, it's kind of it's going to sound funny for you and I to say this. It's like suntan oil. Like when you want to go I've read about this. When you want to go get a tan at the beach, Chef, they used to put oil so that they distribute the heat and get an even tan and not the splotchy tan. Or you could just be born with it. One of the two.
So these things are going to go from gray to pink.
To pink, right? And so I got this oil heated up. And the reason I call it suntan oil or lotion is because it distributes the heat evenly, right? And if you didn't have it, you got the dry spots, you got hot spots, but this oil circulates around the pan and evens everything out, right? So now we have that going. We're going to drop our shells in. You want to hear that sizzle like that?
Love to hear that sound.
Got to hear the sizzle. This goes quick, and you want it to be nice and hot, and you want to start to smell, which I already do, that nice toasted shrimp aroma. And as Chef said, they're going to turn pink. We just keep that heat up, just like so. I'm going to give it just a pinch of salt because we want to flavor our food.
So this here actually may be the quickest stock you can make, because vegetable we let it go a little bit longer.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Chicken we go a little bit longer.
Yep.
And then beef and demi we go
way longer. Especially if you start getting into the demi, right? Like that's a half on a half. So I always add just a bay leaf because we add a little bit of flavor. You can already see that the shells are starting to turn that nice pink. Quick trick there, because we got it. Little splash of white wine to deglaze. You hear that little bit of sizzle? That's what you want. That was probably just about a quarter cup. You don't need a lot of wine, but it helps to balance out that acidity in there. Just stir that out. Once that wine starts to boil, you don't really have to reduce that down. Some nice cold water. I'm using about 2 quarts of water.
And you can smell that already.
You can already smell that aroma. And that's pretty much your shrimp stock. We're going to bring this all the way up to a boil, let it simmer. I wouldn't let it simmer more than 15, 20 minutes. That's all you need. You start going past that, it starts getting it can start getting a weird oxidized flavor that you start to pick up in that. So it doesn't have to go long. And that's pretty much as quick as that. I'm going to set these shrimp behind us because these are going to go into the dish right at the end. Not necessary to put them in now because nobody likes little rubber balls of shrimp.
No, but I like you go Trinity. I mean, when I think Trinity, I think Cajun, Creole.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times in our kitchen, we're doing a Mirepoix.
Mirepoix, which is basically it's the Trinity minus the bell pepper plus carrot, right? So Mirepoix would be the onion, the celery, the carrot, all French.
Yeah.
But in Creole cooking, in that, what do they call it, subtropical climate, you can grow pretty much year round. So we always had bell pepper, and that was kind of what they used in that instead of the carrot. So the carrots, you can still add carrot. You'll see that in a lot of the dishes. It's basically the Trinity Plus if you put the carrot in there.
Okay, yep.
On that. So you can see our stock is just coming up to a boil. So what I'm going to do is put this on the burner behind me and just let it simmer until we need it, which will be right at the end of this. There you go. And so that was as simple as that. It had the shrimp stock, bay leaf, pinch of salt, cold water, white wine. Your stock's going. You're good to go. And now we're ready to make our sauce, Jeff.
All right. I'm down with it.
All right. So while we start our intro to this, I'm going to pull our pan out, start getting that nice and hot. You're going to put a little bit extra oil than what you normally would because in this, Chef, we're going to make a quick roux, which is like a pan roux. You can make a roux separate and add it in, but, sometimes you ain't got no time for that.
And sometimes you got roux is oil and the flour, and sometimes it's butter and the flour.
Yep, and so oil, butter, sometimes it's duck fat, chicken fat, beef fat. So we always just call the roux as fat and flour, right?
Fat and flour.
Fat and flour.
Yep.
You can't put me in a pan, but hey, I would probably make a delicious roux too, right? So a decent amount of oil on that. I wouldn't call that a quarter cup, but I would call that at least 3 tablespoons. And this all depends on how much you're making at the time, right? And so for this, we're going to make enough here for about probably 4 people, I'd say. So we're going to let that start getting nice and hot because you do want to saute your veggies.
Or
and you
if
want to
it's
hear
you
that
and I
sizzle.
for two.
You and I would be too, man. Sometimes, depending on my day, this might just be a quick lunch.
I'm just saying, we've eaten together. We can
we can
even
put it
put some
down,
of that
man.
around. Yeah.
We can put it down for sure.
So we're gonna start with what after your oil.
Yeah. So the oil, you can start to see when I move it, it has a little bit of extra shimmer or like kind of leg. So I know that pan is getting nice and hot. And we're gonna start with our onion. All right. You want to hear a sizzle? I'm praying for a sizzle, being that this is TV. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
We got that. Let's get them all in the pan. All right. We just put that there. Give it a quick stir. We let that come together. And this is, you want to let it go until you start to get it just translucent. We're going to end up adding everybody into the pan eventually. The next step is going to be the celery and the bell pepper, where we're going to these onions just a quick little time to saute. As one chef always told me, no aroma, no flavor. So until you start to smell that sauteing and getting that aroma off of it, you're not going to maximize your flavor. You're maximizing texture if you don't cook it, but not flavor.
Well, and I like the fact that earlier you talked about getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could, and we've done this, right? Pulled the recipe out, kicked it, knocked it out of the park, and next time try that same recipe, and it was off.
Yeah.
So as you talk about these little important things like the aroma,
Yeah.
those are hints
Yes.
to get into that better dish.
That's it, man.
Right?
That's it. And like we talked about before, until you've messed it up a few times, or, like you said, sometimes you nail it and you're like, yes. And the next time you make it and it's like, it's kind of off. Like, then you start to process, well, what did I do different, right? And then you start to figure that out. And it's like sometimes what you think you did different may not be the issue, right? But you figure it out and then you get better and better at it the more you try it. So what I like to do, so like my onions are starting to get translucent here, I push them to the other half of the pan and I leave a little open area. So now I'm going to add our bell pepper into the open area. And bell pepper and celery are softer and cook faster than the onion. That's why we start the onion first. So I'm going to go ahead and add the celery on this side of the pan.
So that's a great tip, Matt. I mean, people don't realize you don't have to just throw it all in there because the onions started. You don't have to now put your peppers and everything in there and try and catch it up.
Yeah.
You can split it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, just split it off like that and let that saute there. And the hardest thing I've learned is when you're cooking, you feel like you should be moving this pan around, right? Like everybody wants to shake it, and it's like, man, sometimes you just gotta let it cook. It's hard though. Like I want to pick it up and toss it, and I kind of push this off to the side so the heat is mostly under here because those onions are right there.
You've had that cook on that line, and
just constantly.
You're flipping a steak down here, and you just see him like flipping.
Yeah. I constantly got to shake.
It's like, when are you going to let it caramelize a little bit?
Yeah. That flame is going to do its work with or without you moving that, man. So, getting a nice bubble here. I can smell that. I'm going to move them around just a little bit with the
So I know you said something earlier. Well, actually, our dish is a Creole shrimp. I'm sure folks out there are going, okay, wait, you said Creole and then you said Cajun.
Yeah, the great debate.
What is the debate on that?
Yeah, so I'm going to join these together now. These are starting to soften just a little bit, and we're going to keep cooking them. And you can see that. So yeah, the great debate, man, because we've never really known the difference. Like a lot of times once you're out of Louisiana, those terms, Creole and Cajun, are used interchangeably. But technically, and now I'm going to go with our bell pepper, if you are sensitive to heat, don't put the bell pepper in there. You don't have to do everything I say.
Jalapeno.
Right? Or jalapeno. Yeah. So we're going to go with a jalapeno. If you don't like the heat, leave it out. I like it. We're going to put it in there. And just like we did before, I put everybody there. Gave the jalapeno just a little bit of area to play. But the Cajun versus Creole debate. Technically, Cajuns come from Acadian, which is way north, basically Canada, right?
Okay.
Came down to Louisiana. They settled in more the northern Louisiana and came down. And when they brought with them, because of the cold weather that they're used to, were all the dried peppers. So Cajun cooking, think dry pepper, spicier. Also, they wear the suntan oil because lighter skin, light white complexion. Creole were the descendants of the French, Spanish, African American.
Yep.
That's the Creole. This, darker skin. So that's kind of what it was, and like that's the whole, like, you hear the French Creole, and that was the biggest difference. So when you're out of there and you hear Cajun and Creole, to me it means something different, right? Like it's a complexion thing. But outside of that, I mean, we represent everybody at that point, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we had the jalapenos all mixed in there. I'm going to push this aside again.
I think you could look it up, and they say city versus, like you say, the northern.
Yeah.
Folks on the outside, the outskirts.
Yep. Yeah, there's a big difference in where you go, right? Like, they're all what we would call naturally New Orleans or in that area, but there's a difference in what you find out there. Like,
but I think when that food hits your tongue, you're just happy.
They can all burn, Chef. They can all cook, right?
They can all cook.
I have learned as much from everybody down there as I have from Creole or Cajun. So the important part is this garlic right here. I pushed everything aside. That's kind of one of the things I've learned along the way is, like, when you add something to the dish, just don't incorporate it indirectly. I want to release that aroma, and that's what I'm doing there in that garlic. But watch your garlic, like this nice toasted color. That's what you're looking for. You don't want to burn it. You want to smell it. And as soon as you start getting that color, now we can introduce it into the rest of the dish. Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm looking for right there, Chef.
I can see that caramelization on those vegetables happening.
Yep. Here's the other trick I'm going to tell you right here is you have to be careful with it. The Creole spice is paprika based. Paprika is fat soluble.
Yeah.
So I like to add it in at this stage when we still have just fat in the pan without a lot of moisture. And that way I know it's absorbing into the dish. If I add it at the end, once they're stock, you will see a lot of that Creole spice sitting on top and pooling on top because it's fat soluble, not water soluble. So I'm going to add this here.
So mostly paprika, but then there's some herbs in there.
Oh, there's herbs.
Yeah.
Salt, pepper. There's garlic spice, onions, or garlic powder, onion powder.
Yep.
Paprika,
right.
Salt, pepper, of course. So now that we have all of this there, now we're going to make our pan roux. So instead of deglazing with white wine right now, I'm going to give it just a touch of oil because my pan's a little dry. Right there, give it a quick stir. And because I've added the Creole spice, now I need to be careful about not burning that either because it will burn on you. So now I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour right over the top. Just enough to give everybody a dusting. Think about what we would consider a Seattle snow flurry where everything just gets dusted, but you still see everything underneath it. That's all we're going for. We're not adding too much flour because this is just going to act as a thickener, but it's also going to give us a little flavor because as you toast that flour, it's going to give you that little nutty flavor. It's going to give you a nice little nuanced, what is that? And it's going to be a little bit of that toasted flour from the roux. And we just stir that as you see it kind of disappeared, but you can see it kind of coated everybody. Now you watch the bottom of that. The next phase I'm going to do here.
So, Chef, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Looks like what's happening here is you're creating layers of flavor.
Layers of flavor,
and I read somewhere about it's in your DNA.
Yeah. Layers of flavor, man. It's in the DNA. It's got to be, man. Like, you don't realize what you're doing, but taking the time, right? Like, taking the time, like you said before, not just throwing everything in the pan and starting to saute it, but taking the time to add it, cook it through, incorporate it in. Add it, cook it through, incorporate it in, right? You're adding those layers and you're rounding it out, right?
And this is cool because I'm watching. You've got a light, kind of a light roux here, right?
Yeah, we're not going too dark.
And you know, like when you're doing
The
your
gumbos.
gumbo, you're like looking
Yeah.
for it dark, right?
Yeah, cafe au lait style. You can go as dark as you want. I'm just going to give it a nice little deglaze. And what that wine does, aside from adding a little acid to the dish that helps you balance that out, it also will lift any little bits off the bottom of the pan, but it will also stop that cooking process momentarily. So you're not worried about that garlic or that paprika burning anymore. I'm going to add a bay leaf because we're about to add our stock. We're going to add all of our tomatoes, including the juice. Right there. You're going to stir this in. And you're going to see this is going to pretty much, as soon as it's up to a simmer, it starts to thicken because of that flour or that roux that we made in there. And you see that, Chef? It's already nice and thick.
Yeah, so that juice is actually creating that kind of gummy.
Yep.
I guess it's gummy yummy.
Gummy yummy. Hey, man, let's get a t-shirt, bro. I like that. I like it. The gummy yummy is what we're looking for right there. You heard it here on the Fair Start live.
Heard it here first.
Live stream, yeah.
That's
the
right.
Gummy yummy. But that's exactly what you want. That tells me my roux is working, right? It's thickening up. You see everything in there. I'm just bringing everybody to the party.
And I'm just going to be sure you just all-purpose flour in there, right?
All-purpose flour.
Yep.
And you can, I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know that I would go gluten-free per se. I'm going to turn this off, but I can already smell this stock. And I'm just going to pour and use my spoon to keep the shell out. And just enough to cover everybody. Like so. We can always add a little bit more. It's harder to take it out. But I'm excited about that. That smell is taking me right back home, Chef.
Oh, I'm telling you, man.
Right back home.
That's the thing I love about food and cuisines. If you go out somewhere, say you're on the edge of France somewhere.
Yep.
And you have a great meal. Or you're in New Orleans, you have a great shrimp Creole.
Yep.
And then you come to where you at, Matt, and you have a great shrimp Creole.
Yeah.
And that just takes you.
You're sitting on the coast of France.
It just takes you right there. You know?
Yeah. It's true, man. I love that. I grew up fishing with my grandfather in New Orleans. Like, we always call that our second religion, right? Fishing. And the music we listened to, you know, was just kind of like old school 70s, 80s R&B. There's certain songs I hear, man, and I'm right back in the bayou, sitting on the boat fishing with Gramps. You know, I was like, oh, man. And it's the same thing with food and everything else. You know, as soon as you have that bite, it's like, oh, my gosh. Like,
I just want people to note the color
yes,
that came up out of that dish.
yes. So you still see the red of the tomato, but you can see we have that color from that roux. It's not truly like that blonde roux, but it's not that super dark roux. You can take it darker, but I didn't feel it was necessary for this dish. You can also add a couple of little variations. If you want to take some extra time and some steps, you can add tomato paste, just a little bit, like a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. Work that in before you add the flour. Add the flour and do that. That'll give you slightly different texture and a little bit of different flavor. Those are little nuanced things those are kind of like restaurant recipes
When it takes it to that next
versus the home cook recipe. Like when I do it at my house, I do it this way. But when I go like James Beard House, I'm going to add that little bit of tomato paste kind of thing.
right?
Like that. That's what I'm talking about. A little subtle differences there. So now
I had a chef that he would take chicken stock,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when he was doing like a super fancy, he knew he had a client coming in and he was doing a super fancy, he would like reduce that thing down 4 times.
Yeah.
make a dish, right?
Yeah.
And then just add like a teaspoon of that and it would just like,
Oh, man.
add so much flavor.
Yeah. Making those reduced stocks or the demis, it's amazing the amount of like just dancing party that it has on your palate for that, right?
Yeah.
It's over the top. All right. So now it wouldn't be shrimp Creole without the shrimp, right? So now that we have the bubble, everything's thickening up. I'm actually going to adjust this with that. I didn't bring a spoon, but I'm going to use my big spoon. Yeah. I want to give it a quick taste. Tasting the bubbles because that's kind of where everything is dissolved. Oh, I'm liking that, Chef. Too bad you got to stay over there because this is delicious.
Man, I'm coming.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna do that to you, Chef. I'm gonna bring you some. So I hit it with Worcestershire, about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, and that's one of my favorite ingredients. Worcestershire, I call it my Creole fish sauce. It's like that umami bomb.
Yep.
I'm gonna hit it with just a little bit more Creole spice, right into the bubbles.
Just to round it out in the end.
Round it out at the end,
Yep.
right? Now that everybody's simmering, you get the flavors going through.
I think you forgot to tell them about the 1 pinch and 2 pinch, the teaspoon and the tablespoon.
The 1 pinch,
salt.
2 pinch?
Yeah.
Man, that's a good little trick there. I think I got that from you. But what Chef's talking about is you can do a 2-finger pinch like this. You can do a 3-finger pinch, or you can do a 4-finger pinch, right? And like the 4-finger pinches, you're hitting it.
Couple tablespoons.
Yeah, that was like a 3-finger pinch of salt, 2-finger pinch of Creole spice, the Worcestershire, and I'm going to add all of this shrimp here, including the tails and whatever juice is left in the pan on that.
But see, those are the little clues that we get from our mentors, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I had a chef, he goes, I don't have time for you to keep leaving the line to grab a teaspoon and tablespoon. So you need to figure out what you have on you, which is your fingers.
Yeah.
What's a teaspoon? What's a tablespoon? The palm of my hand is an exact tablespoon. He had to measure that thing over and over again.
Yeah. You know, what's funny, though, I had a chef. I learned a lot from him, but he was one of those chefs that wasn't really on the line with you all the time. But he would sit in his office and he would watch. And, like, I would season. And, like, I taste it and season it. He would always be like, it's not seasoned, right? He didn't even taste it.
Yeah.
And, he was this little chef, little French guy. And he'd come out there and I say, taste it, chef. You know, like, you never talk back to a chef like that, right? Like, taste it first, chef. Like, he tasted, oh, it's good. I was like, yeah, chef, I got big hands. You think I don't season enough? You got those little hands, chef. You got to go twice for every my 3-finger pinches, you know? And so, like, I always joke with him. Then that kind of broke the ice with us. And that chef there. I was like, yeah, you get used to what your pinch is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the easiest thing is to do it, pinch it out, and then you can measure what your pinch was. And then you know. And then as a chef, as you get to look, you're at that point, you look at a dish, you're like, oh, I know how much I got to put in there, right? Like, you don't need to go get that measuring spoon anymore on that. But you can see here, chef, these shrimp, you can start to see the backs opening up a little bit more. I see the color change. So that's telling me that we are right there on what we want to see.
That is gorgeous, chef.
So there you go. That's the quick version of the shrimp Creole. The last thing we do, we can add a little bit of green onion. I like to add some that gets cooked into the dish, like so. And then, are we plating right now? We're going to plate in a second.
Let's go ahead and plate it up.
All right.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to do this, now that we got everybody in here, I'm going to take the shrimp right in the middle of the plate, like so. And then we have some rice that we cooked ahead of time right here. Grab my other spoon. And we just go right on top right here. Now, how I would serve this is like that. A little bit of green onion right on top. Just a little dusting of Creole spice.
Oh, I like that finish. Yeah.
You could serve this with your favorite crusty bread or whatever it is right there, but there you have it. The nice shrimp Creole. I'm going to get a spoon, a fork. I'm going to hand it over to Chef, and he's going to be able to taste it during our next little segment here.
Woo!
Then when we come back, are we doing dessert?
I'm getting excited about that. We're going to come back and do dessert.
You got to get excited, Chef.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was great. Now we're going to take a short break from the kitchen to hear from Donna. She's one of our amazing graduates from our very first virtual cohort. Donna, take it away.
Our students come to us so often, crushed by injustice, poverty, homelessness, incarceration, being abandoned so often by their own communities and family. I am the same student that we serve. I've made a lot of mistakes in my earlier self when I didn't know who I was, didn't understand my value. So I get where our students are, and I think we serve some of the most amazing human beings on the planet.
Well, hello there.
Hi, Miss Joan. How are you?
You look gorgeous.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you. I come from the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma. I first started using when I was like 3. That's when my abuse started. I was stuck in the cycle of addiction because I couldn't deal with the reality of what my life had become. The amount of shame and guilt was very overpowering. I need help.
We provide housing, food, clothing, professional counseling, and any other resources they might need. They come to us with hope, and we have an abundance of it to share with them. About 3 weeks within the program, we certainly saw a shift in her spirit.
She helped me see that I have more potential than I gave myself credit for. Right now, I am an advocate at a homeless shelter. I love the positive impact that I can have on people and let them know too that I've been in your shoes. You don't have to be there forever. We're here to provide you the space to grow and have a life that you can be happy with and proud of.
You have greatness within you that you need to let out. Your greatness is not for you to keep.
Owning your greatness is something that I hadn't heard before. She's instilled that in me. Let it out.
Let it out. We
Own our greatness.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
What an amazing story. Congratulations, Donna, on all your successes. And we cannot wait to see where you go in the future. Now we're going to get back to Chef Matt and that Bananas Foster. Hey, Chef.
Hey, Chef.
We're at it, man.
You ready? All right, man. Like the Lone Ranger, I'm going to demask and get going.
Lone Ranger.
I guess that one worked,
I guess
right?
I'm Tonto.
Tonto. One of the two. All right, I'm going to get my pan going. This is a great, easy, like, wow your friends kind of dessert. You can pull it off. You can serve it over many things. My favorite is ice cream, but you can incorporate this, like people start doing it over apple pie or cherry pie, and you can incorporate different fruits in here. Like you can do the base sauce, but during stone fruit season, you can use peaches. You could use apples if you want to. The thing is like apples take a little bit longer to cook. So sometimes, you got to be careful not to burn that sauce by the time the apples are ready. But super simple. You can pull this off. This is one of the ones that you see in restaurants as well, like a big flambe dessert. So
you got me cracking up already because you're taking a dish
yeah,
that was made to be a dish, Bananas Foster.
yeah.
And now you can do all these different things. Stone fruit, you're saying, and cherries, and over cherry pie.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm laughing because it reminds me of the Caesar salad, right?
Yeah.
I started out as just a Caesar salad. Now you can get with shrimp. You can get with chicken. Get it with salmon.
Yeah. I still have not been able to confirm the origin story of Caesar salad, but there's some good ones out there for sure.
Well, they claim that this Bananas Foster is from Commander's Palace. Is that?
I have a feeling it could be. And it's funny the way the stories happen, right? It's usually like somebody came in late night, a VIP, and wanted a dessert, and this is all they had left kind of thing. But yeah, it's a fun one because this is one that you get off of tableside restaurants, off the Gyrodon, which is that rolly cart, and the server will come up there. Super easy. Start off with a nice chunk of butter that was probably like a tablespoon, a little bit over a tablespoon. Melt that down. You can get a little bit of caramelization on that. The easiest way to do these bananas, because like I said, table side, just grab the stem and you pull back and you can reveal it. So when you do table side, what they teach you is you never want to touch the food if you can help it, right? And then you take this, and now you can cut into your hand with a spoon because it's a banana. You can go right into that.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
like
I like that.
And the banana skin acts as that on that.
So this is a COVID safe dish. You're not
COVID safe
nothing.
dish. Yeah, I'm going to pull that off the flame for a second. So that butter's going. We're going to add some brown sugar to it. And we're going to give that a stir. That brown sugar will dissolve really quickly. The melting part right there. Now, bring that back to the heat. Going to hit this with a little bit of orange juice. And this just gives it a little bit more of acidity and helps play with that fatness of the butter. Now,
I hope folks caught that. You said that twice now. You had a little acidity when you did that shrimp Creole.
Yeah.
And now you're adding a little acidity.
Got to have the roll.
Here.
You got to have the roll. Yep.
Yep.
So be careful when you do this one. This is dark rum. So now that we have everybody dissolved, I got a little bit of brown sugar right there. So I'm going to flip that guy just to get him to dissolve in that sauce. So I'm going to pull this off the flame. I'm going to add our dark rum right there. Now, if you want, like I said, it can be a flambe. Now that you have it in there, you can just tilt your pan just enough.
Oh, yeah.
And now you see we have a nice little flame right there. This will burn off, so you don't worry. If you do this at home, have a lid. Just in case it gets out of control, you just put a lid on, it's gone. This goes out pretty quickly. The one thing, if you do pour this over the flame, I've just seen some things happen, right? Like it can backdraft into the bottle. So the safest thing, pull it off, add what you want, put it back to the flame, tilt it to the side. And just like that, the flame is already pretty much gone. It's out of there. A trick I learned from one of my chef mentors is just a touch of banana liqueur. Okay. I don't mind pouring this one on there because this is very low proof. It's not going to flare up. So just about a tablespoon. It helps with that banana flavor. Now, we talked about those layers, right?
Layers of flavor,
just a pinch of cinnamon if you like that. It doesn't take a lot. Like when I say a pinch, that's the one finger pinch if you can do it. On there, we stir that out.
So is this one of the dishes you had growing up? Did you have bananas Foster all the time, huh?
Oh, yeah. This is one of, because it's so simple, right? And it's so delicious. So I did this one with one banana. You can do it however many people. I would at least a half a banana per person. So one banana is enough for you and I. Sorry, film crew. We'll do it again off the camera. But now that we're right there, the piece de resistance. Now I'm just going to hit it with just a whisper of salt, chef.
Yeah.
Now people may say, why salt in a dessert? Because salt will open up the receptors for your sugar, and that gives you that balance, right? So many times you taste that dessert and it's too sweet. Just a touch of salt will give it that contrast that just really gives you that roll on the palate. So now you can imagine this, a little bit of ice cream. Take this nice sauce, roll it right over the top, give it some fruit. You can add nuts to it if you want, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Bananas Foster.
Ice cream?
Ice cream.
Ice cream?
Ice cream, you scream. We all scream for ice cream.
I'm getting ice cream.
Just like that. Yeah, chef already knows where to go. He's sneaking in there. Let's see if chef can pull it off. Oh, there we go. All right.
So I bananas, from what I read, they used to float those up into Louisiana. Okay. On ships.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Well, yeah. That's where we got all of our... so many things came up. Like there was stories of big snakes coming up in there, and at the port, everybody would leave the port because there was a big python or something that came up in the banana cases. Those are all true stories. And when I lived down there, I worked at the zoo. And occasionally when those boats would come in, there would always be like a big snake or something that came up in some of those things. And they call the zoo and they go get them.
Wow. Crazy. Crazy.
So I got that. I'm going to use this. A little bit of vanilla ice cream right in the bowl. Chef, how much ice cream do you want?
2 scoops, man.
You're gonna make me do this twice.
Just around the edge to the top. That's all.
I got you, man. I got you.
So, and probably something like this, vanilla would work the best, huh? I mean,
man, you know what? Choose your own adventure. Like you see all of these,
chocolate and caramel go well together, right?
Yeah, exactly. You see all of these boutique ice cream shops with all of these crazy flavors, and you try them. It's like, oh, pretty good. So you choose your own adventure on that.
So what are we talking? 6, 7 ingredients: banana, brown sugar.
Yeah, just like that.
2 liqueurs, butter. Oh, that's.
I'm gonna get you a spoon right there, Chef.
That's pretty. That's
pretty.
it
Right there.
That's pretty. Show them over there.
For those at home, I'm gonna show you over here. A nice bananas Foster. Super simple, super easy. If you had some pecans, any kind of nut, that'd be super delicious. And there you have it.
That is awesome, sir. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming down. Chef Matt, it's been too long. I'm glad we got together. Let's do it again soon.
Hey, man. I'm always down.
And my heartfelt thanks to all of you spending your time with us this evening. You could have been anywhere tonight, but you chose us. Make sure you stay in tune for more information on our upcoming guest chef nights at home in 2022. Finally, Fair Start counts on all of you to help do the work. If you can, please donate, volunteer, or help spread the word about our work. Learn more at fairstart.org. And again, thank you, and good night.